What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande, bringing you the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream here for Tuesday's 9-game main slate. James, Sean Mitchell today did the playbook, so you and I get to kind of break down the work, break down his look at tonight's slate, and it's quite a doozy. There's 9 games, but there's some incredible matchups here, including one, Brooklyn versus Sacramento, 242 game total there. Almost hard not to want to have action there.
Yeah, that game is going to be the most popular, and for good reason. There's obviously no defense. There's obviously a lot of offense. So I think we should. It's one of those situations where you look at a slate of games. You're like, well, this has a 10-point spread, 11, but this only has a 6.5-point spread, 242 total. It's just kind of a game that you inevitably are going to want. Not just one piece, John, but multiple pieces of. So, it's obviously the best game on the board. It's should be the most owned game on the board, and we differentiate elsewhere. Sometimes you just you just eat the chalk, and you differentiate your 8 other spots elsewhere.
Right. There's good chalk, and there's bad chalk tonight. That's going to be probably one of the good chalk games. Just some injury news. Obviously, we want to go over the big ones. Kristaps Porzingis has already been ruled out for this one, missing his second straight game now due to some back issues there. We also have news that Kyle Lowry considered doubtful. Again, he's on pace to miss what was his 4th game in a row now, it seems like, with his deal. And then Kevin Durant, as we know, continues to be out of the lineup there. Any other big names that I'm missing? Dylan Wright, I guess, kind of jumps into that category as well.
Well, Russell Westbrook playing a second night of a back-to-back is a pretty big deal. Jeff Green, questionable. Cam Reddish, doubtful. Harry B, questionable. Taurean Prince, doubtful. Did you say Steph Curry? I don't know. I don't know if you said Steph Curry.
I didn't say Steph. He's probable though, isn't he?
Nope, questionable with an illness.
Questionable now. Okay, all right.
Questionable with an illness. So, there's definitely some potential moving parts with the injury news that we have tonight.
All right, well, let's just jump into it. Like I said, we have a lot to get to. Going through Sean's playbook here. What do you think about his top point guard plays? Which of your kind of tops it off for you here?
So I definitely think going back to the Luka well is appealing because he let everyone down. And John, I've said it 100 times on this live stream. If you get a spot, you get a star in a spot that's going to be low owned, that could win you a tournament. And Boston doesn't have Marcus Smart. They don't have anybody that can defend Luka Doncic. And just because Luka didn't play great after a 7-night layoff doesn't mean he's not going to put up 60, 70 fantasy points against Boston tonight. And if that ownership projection that we're getting is real, then I want all the smoke, John.
This is what we talk a lot about when we have these larger slates. Sometimes the ownership on these high-priced guys is spread out because a lot of people are getting creative with their lineups, and we're looking here and we see Luka as one of the highest priced players on the entire slate, and then we look at that Nets game and we see the 242 total, and where people are going to be trying to get that exposure. It's going to be on Kyrie Irving, it's going to be on James Harden, De'Aaron Fox at the point guard positions there. So you're left with Luka with low projected ownership because nobody wants to play him on the second night of a back-to-back against, Boston, who, though, has struggled defensively against point guards. Kemba Walker, not a great defender at all. And as you mentioned, Smart, that other sort of just obvious chalk situation is just sucking in all that usage. So you're right. We could go ahead, as Sean put it in his playbook, 37.6% usage rate, almost 1.6 fantasy points per minute for Luka without Porzingis on the floor. He goes and has 75 fantasy points and no one's on him because they're all playing James Harden. Now, it's not to say James Harden can't do the same damn thing, but it's Luka. So I think I'm in agreement. I think this is a great opportunity to go ahead and get him at lower ownership and hope that he bounces back and has that ceiling game And then maybe it's not as great of an option there for Harden, because I mean, it's hard not to like that matchup, but Sacramento tends to get blown out at times, and maybe that ends up coming through there as well. One of my favorites here, and again, the ownership that we're seeing is fairly low, and you've been on him now for a handful of slates, is Trey Young. Trey's been phenomenal, and now he's going up against Cleveland. We know Garland and Sexton are not great defenders. They're not a good defensive team just in general. Jared Allen at center is a good shot blocker, but not a great defender. Like, Trey can score pretty much anywhere, and he's giving you secondary stats as well. Double-digit assist totals now, a handful of games. He's looking like he's over the risk problem that hampered him earlier. If you're looking to spend down a little bit, under 10K, Trey Young, the way he's playing right now, I'm a big fan right there.
Yeah, and for a guy shooting 44% from the floor, it's great to see it over 50 over his last 6 games. 52% exactly, and 42% from 3 over that 6-game span as well. So if the shot's falling, he's unstoppable, and that's from a real basketball perspective and a fantasy perspective. We just saw 70-point upside from Trey, and I don't see why we couldn't get 60 again against Cleveland. So if you want to take the savings off Luka and go to Trey Young, perfectly fine. And then obviously Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, both, and Russell Westbrook, we could just throw them all into the mix. Yeah. I think they're all elite GPP pivots.
Does the Westbrook Pat Bev sort of rivalry get to you there? Yeah.
Always. I love playing Russell Westbrook against Pat Beverly because that was the Thunder's best chance to win a title with Westbrook and Durant, and that was a stupid ass play from Patrick Beverly. Let's be honest. That was the over by the sideline where the play was dead, and he was just being over aggressive like he always is. And Westbrook, listen, man, there are a few things in NBA DFS that I like in terms of revenge narratives. Yeah. This is one. The Westbrook Beverly narrative is one, and I don't find it coincidental that he's playing on the second leg of a back-to-back.
No, I agree with you. We saw him go off second night of a back-to-back against the Rockets last week, and we thought, like, all right, revenge game a little bit here for him. And what do? He triple doubles, goes for like 60 fantasy points, looked like the Westbrook of old. Again, low ownership there because all of the ownership's on our guy Kyrie here, under $9,000. It's too good of a price. It's too good of a matchup. The game environment, everything about it is obviously sucking you into this Kyrie Irving play. Is there really, Sean has him as a cash game option. I agree. I think in cash, you kind of have to play him. Can you fade him, though, at under $9,000? I mean, Jamal Murray's been playing very well. Similar price point, good matchup against Portland. But if Kyrie goes and scores 40 actual and gives you, 50 to 60 fantasy points at under 9K, and you don't have them and the chalk does, you're kind of sitting by the 8 ball here.
Yeah, and that's the problem, or that's the pros and cons of playing versus fading chalk, right? Like, that's to a T what. So obviously we at the top we talked about it. Like, don't fade this game. If you want if the exposure you want to this game is Kyrie, by all means, like, he's gonna and 40% of the field feel the same way.
So 56 fantasy points against them 3 games ago. So
I mean, it's not the proof is in the pudding. The Kings are dead last in defensive rating. So if you want to play any of these guys, like, go ahead. Like, he doesn't even have De'Aaron Fox in the playbook. On the flip side, if you'd rather save $800 and play De'Aaron Fox, like, be my guest, because he's in an equally good matchup as well. Brooklyn's 27th in defensive rating as a team, so it's hard to fade this matchup. And like we mentioned, all these guys at the top of point guard and it's loaded, but like, John, I think all roads lead back to Kyrie. Like, it's just like you said, if this chalk busts, it'd be surprising. Honestly, it would be surprising if he doesn't.
It would be a major upset. Like, the only way I see it busting is if they go and win by 30.
Well, right, if they're by 20 at half, and yeah.
Right, like, that's the only way that I could see it happening. 6.5 point spread. They're home. We know the Kings have been blown up before. Like, that's your only hedge. But if you're hedging against them tonight, like, play light. Don't go and spend 20% of your bankroll tonight hedging against Brooklyn, Sacramento, because it could be a long night for you, or at least an early night for you. The game starts at 7:30. Yeah. You can just turn it off when Harden's got 40 at half and you don't got any. So, other point guards, though, if we are looking at some value, he does have Darius Garland in the play, but Garland's coming off a 40-plus fantasy point game against Atlanta I've been in on Garland a lot of this year when he's been active. We've that price tag for him, and I like him a little bit lower on DraftKings. He's 61. I think I liked him better when he was in that middle 5K than upper 5, lower 6. But Atlanta, you can definitely get the job done if you're looking to spend down. But James, you and I went back and forth today a little bit on a debate of value guards, and both of them have made Sean's playbook today. So you were on the Saban Lee train. I like Campazzo. He has them both. Ownership on Lee makes a lot of sense on DraftKings because we're trying to fit all of these Nets Kings players in there at $3,200. I kind of agree with you. Like, that's a can't fade for value. I just worry that, is the 30 minutes real? That's basically what I'm looking to figure out here. How are you feeling about it?
I mean, I think it's one of those situations where they drafted him this year. Yes, he was a second-round pick, and they had 3 first-round picks. So, was the investment, was this an investment that they're, heavily into? But, why not? DSJ, what is DSJ the guy of the future? No, DeLon Wright is. So why not give Saban Lee a look, or Killian Hayes at that?
Killian Hayes is he's right. The guy of the future. They're now on their third point guard.
So I like Saban Lee 3,200. I think it's hard to fade. I will not play him at 5K though. I think that price tag is very hard to pay for, but I mean, if you're playing cash games, you plug and play Saban Lee on DraftKings. If you're playing tournaments, if you're building 20 lineups, let's say you enter the 20 max, the $4 20 max, I think you have minimum 50% ownership because you want to spend up on the Harden, the Giannis's, the Lukas. So I think you want a lot of exposure on DraftKings. I don't think this is a spot you fade. But I do like Campazzo, John. Just if I'm picking
better
between
on FanDuel because he's cheaper.
Right. Better. It's definitely a better FanDuel play because $1,200 on DraftKings gets you a lot. That gets you to Harden or Giannis or whoever you want.
Exactly. Shooting guard here. Again, James Harden. We don't need to break down why he's a great play. I almost feel the same way about Bradley Beal. We don't really need to talk about why Bradley Beal is a good play. I really just want to jump to Paul George because at $8,500 against the Wizards on FanDuel, I find a way to make him in my lineup. He's come back from injury and looked just as good as he did before the injury. We were paying, over $9K for him prior to getting injured for a while in there. So you're getting still a little bit of a post-injury discount. DraftKings has bumped him up to 91, so he's certainly on his way back there. But Paul George against the Wizards in this matchup, I mean, again, sign me up. We love attacking the Wizards for a couple of years now, and nothing has changed for them defensively.
Yeah, Sean has him listed as a cash game play. I would actually flip that to a tournament option, and I think it'd be because I don't know if Washington can I think Washington can keep it close. Obviously they just beat the Lakers last night, but it's a different version of the Lakers without Davis and Schroeder rather. I'm obviously worried about a blowout here, and it's a 12-point spread. That would be my one hesitation when it comes to this game and the amount of exposure I want. But this version of Russell Westbrook is different than the one we were getting earlier in the year, and Bradley Beal can score 40 actual at the drop of a hat. So definitely an interesting tournament play that I would like to stack. I think I would if I played Paul George, I want to run it back with a Beal or I want to run it back with a Westbrook, because if I am and this game stays close, those dudes can give me 120 fantasy points alone, just between those two. So
it's 236 game total too. So you're talking. It's not too far off of the other game that we're talking about here on the slate. You're getting that late night hammer exposure. Technically both 10 p.m. games here. Portland, Denver, also over 230. There's a lot of high scoring matchups here. So if this is where your pivots are, right? They're a little bit cheaper, and there's just as much upside in these spots for both of them as well. Looking to the mid-tier edge shooting guard here, we were all burned by Norman Powell the other day. We've constantly kind of talked about, like, why pay the $8,500 for VanVleet when you get Norman Powell for like $1,500 to $2,000 cheaper? Well, if you did that the other slate, you got killed. Powell missed all of his shots, was in foul trouble, and VanVleet went for 50. Do you still believe? And I mean, like, I still think that holds true. Like, I still think that the form we got from Powell the other day was just a bad night, and we got a ceiling game out of VanVleet just to kind of, to cap it off for us there as missing the play. But what's your take on VanVleet and Powell again running it back against Philly?
I mean, Powell missed all the shots and turned the ball over. And when you do that, like, you're just not going to have a good fantasy outing. And the games prior, I mean, we're talking about a guy who had 31 and 29 actual points in 2 straight the games prior. We're talking about a guy who has, for 7 out of his last 10 games, 20-plus actual points. So, like, what's not to like about Norman Powell? I get the VanVleet thing, playing point guard, and he's looked good, like 7 or more assists in 3 of his last 4. But I'm still team Norman Powell at the end of the day with the savings, because if Norm again goes for 29 actual, I mean, we're in the driver's seat. If him and VanVleet are putting up the same production, we're in the driver's seat with Powell. So I agree, but I mostly have exposure to Tyrese Halliburton in this next tier. And 90, I mean, he went nuts the last game, and he's had 33 or more fantasy points in 2 straight. Over the last month, no King has played more minutes, John, than Tyrese Halliburton, or the last 2 weeks, rather.
Happy to have his rookie card. Don't have his top shot yet, but happy to have his rookie card.
Yeah, I mean, everyone wants the top shot, John. So, like, I'm just kidding. That's legit. I mean, he's legit, and there's a reason why the Kings took him, even though they were like, all these critics saying, well, where is he going to play? Well, he was the best player on the board, and the Kings said, we'll figure it out. So I love Tyrese Halliburton. I actually love Josh Jackson, too, in this net. Like,
Josh Jackson
took 20 shots.
He
took 20 shots.
$1,500 on DraftKings. Guy has 40 fantasy point upside. I mean,
51 on FanDuel. He took 23 shots in this same matchup the other night off the bench. Didn't make anything. Yeah, but he still had 17. Which
has been the problem for Josh Jackson since he's been drafted. But
right. That is the Josh Jackson dilemma right there. But I mean, like, how do you not go back to the well here in the same matchup? All these shots, no Wayne Ellington, no DeLon Wright, no like anybody other than Jeremy Grant. We
are getting some injury news rolling in. Cam Reddish officially ruled out. We're on shooting guard. Kevin Huerter, we know, is somebody that could be a little bit more appealing now. We also got Kyle Lowry officially ruled out. Jeff Green remains a game time decision tonight. That's kind of a big for play that I like to talk about when we get to center. But knowing Lowry officially ruled out again doesn't really change much for our Powell and VanVleet take. We like Josh Jackson, but where does Kevin Huerter now fit into this with Cam Reddish out?
I mean, I definitely think he's an option. Like, he hasn't been great. Let's be blunt about it. Like, he's not shooting a lot, and we're not getting that same aggressive version of Kevin Huerter. I mean, the 3-point percentage has been dreadful lately. 21% over his last 6 games. But we know there's scoring upside in Kevin Huerter. So it's a good matchup against Cleveland. I like it. I also, John, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to duck and cover, but I think Tony Snell could get like 26 minutes, and he's min salary on DraftKings.
What is Tony Snell going to do? Tony Snell has one of the few that have like the most epic NBA stat lines of all time. It's like 30 minutes with 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 blocks, and 0 steals. He was on the floor for 30 minutes just clapping his hands, cheering on the team.
Tony Snell will go for 25 fantasy points.
You don't want your name attached to that. You don't want your name. You know what? I would feel better if you just touted Danilo Gallinari, which I know we're going to in like 3.5 minutes when we get to small forward here. To quickly run through the rest of shooting guard with no Porzingis, Tim Hardaway, Josh Richardson, we know is a small forward. on FanDuel. Like what's your take on those two guys? Do you trust that they're capable of repeating last night's performance against Memphis, going up against Boston now? They do have better wing defenders. Jaylen Brown is going to be up there to defend. They're going to have to deal with Jason Tatum as well. Like, do you think that Hardaway and Jackson can find the same success tonight against a Boston team who is not really playing great defense anyways? But, what's your take on those two guys?
I mean, obviously, we know Tim Hardaway has the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So, like, definitely tournaments only. The price tag is really appealing, and so is Josh Richardson as well. So, I feel better about Richardson. I feel better about him doing more than Hardaway. Like, obviously, Hardaway's so scoring dependent. It's tough to trust on a nightly basis. And plus, Luka went 8 for 18. Like, this could be a Luka 12 for 23 night, and Tim Hardaway takes a backseat. So, I would probably put Richardson slightly ahead of Hardaway, but I think they're both viable. Their price tags are both very hard to ignore.
Yeah, I'm in a full agreement with you. Again, especially if you're trying to be a little bit different tonight, I think they could be there as an optional value play for you to take a look at. Small forward, Kawhi under 10K. $9,400 for me on DraftKings is very appealing. Yep. Same reasons I like George at 91, like Kawhi at 94. You could even throw them both in the same lineup against the Wizards if you really wanted to. There's going to be production there. After Chris Middleton let us down for 5 straight slates, he went for 60 the other day. I don't know if you trust that to come back for him, but it is a spot against Minnesota. Certainly can do damage there. And then Evan Fournier has been playing out of his mind the last 2 games. What's your take on this middle of the small forward position?
I never left the Chris Middleton bandwagon, for the record.
Did you play him that night?
I did. So wow. I actually stacked him and Giannis together. Still, there was no. I wish I had more to come from it, but like I brought it back with De'Aaron Fox going for 30 fantasy points. But right. I mean, dude, the price is just too cheap on FanDuel. He's $7,200, and yes, he was bad, but everyone goes through spells where they're not great. There's still no Drew Holiday. It's Giannis, it's Chris Middleton, and no one else honestly matters. There's DiVincenzo does some things, Connaughton does things, Augustine, but they're so like there is limited production because the offense just revolves around these 2 guys. So I'm definitely willing to go there, and I'm definitely willing to go back to Fournier. Him and Vucevic are in such good rhythm together. It's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, 6,800, you'd never think about like Evan Fournier being that type of player, but we've seen him run off this offense in the past when there was no Markelle Fultz or DJ Augustine was out.
Right now, so.
Right. And we've seen the assists and the rebound. Everything's just clicking for Fournier. So him and Middleton, I think, are just very hard to ignore in this middle tier because I don't love anyone else until you kind of start dropping down.
I think Seti's fine.
Yeah. But like in this other Oubre I love, but do we want to pay 7.6 for him? No. Jaylen Brown 84.
If Steph
doesn't play, Oubre at 7.6 is definitely appealing, but it's so slow. Like the Knicks play so slow, but like they have to get scoring from somewhere. So like, but Siakam 89 against Philly, that's tough. Jalen 84. Well, like I don't know. Middleton and Fournier just seem so locked in at these prices, and then yeah, I mean I would probably go right to Seti. I put him in my starting 5 today. I love the production, especially on FanDuel where he's honestly doing everything.
Would you play Seti at his price tag of 5.4, or would you spend down on a guy like Will Barton at 52?
I mean, it's obviously a good spot, and Will Barton revenge narrative, by the way. So if you want to play that card, you can. I like them both.
Even Michael Porter, I guess he's probable to play, but I mean,
probable,
back. Yeah. He's got a history of back problems, so like, right. Who knows?
I think there's going to be a lot of ownership between like Seti, Barton, Richardson. I think, and honestly, probably Gallinari.
Yeah, $4,700 for Richardson on FanDuel there's going to be a lot of ownership there.
I think a lot of ownership are between those 4 guys, and warranted. So I would honestly play any of those four I would probably play a combination of two because I'm not completely sold on spending up. And if I'm not playing Middleton or Fournier, I'd probably just drop down and play two of these 4 to 5K guys.
I'm with you on that one. Power forward. Giannis against Minnesota, right?
Like, dude, your shrug, your MJ shrug, and your like, how you started that, where you just said, like, that's all that you need to say. He has just been,
he's been the best player.
What he is.
Best player in fantasy for.
It's just is what it is right now. I never you don't think about like plug and plays at 11K, but this is James Harden from last year, or this is James Harden from any time there was no Westbrook or anything. Like, you just play him.
Yeah, it's the great matchup. The Timberwolves have a brand new coach now,
and they're not blowing anyone out. Milwaukee is not blowing people out. We've been talking about this for a little while. Like, this spread is, I don't believe it. They're not blowing people out.
Do you think that they could against the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I think if there was a spot to like blow someone out, but like we said that about OKC. Didn't blow them out. We said that about Cleveland.
They lost. They didn't.
They actually. We said that about
Giannis this year without Holiday. Not to cut you off, I apologize. There, 33.5% usage rate, 1.74 fantasy points per minute. So, Yeah.
It's just it's just lock and load. And plus,
he's really good.
The top position isn't great after Giannis. Honestly, it's good, right?
I like Julius Randle.
I like Julius Randle. I like Julius Randle too. Golden State has been allowing a lot of fantasy points in front courts this year.
Yeah. I think Randle. I think John Collins is in a good spot tonight, especially no Reddish again. Not that Reddish was taking 25 shots, but he was playing pretty well lately. So you're just, if you're gonna put Tony Snell on the floor, who's a 0 offensively, John Collins is going to absorb some of that offense. So Collins at under 7K against Cleveland front court with Osman and Jared Allen. Give me some of that for sure. And then, of course, I'd love to know what Sacramento's going to do because Bagley's at 6K. That too is a really good spot to attack.
Yeah, he is so inconsistent. And I think it obviously has to do with playing time as well. Luke Walton just does not know what to do with Bagley, whether he's going to play 20 minutes or 30 minutes, going to be on a limit, not going to be on a limit. Will he stay out of foul trouble? This seems like a spot that he will stay out of foul trouble. So, I'm okay with Bagley, but it's strictly tournaments. Plus, everyone below him, yikes. It's a yikes for me, the rest of this power forward position.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I think maybe Daniel Tice could be in play. That's 35 minutes. That's probably it. Because Daniel Tice is a power forward on FanDuel. At least he's been playing power forward, so I can't actually hate on them for that. As much as I really, really want to. Center is quite interesting. I had this sort of conversation with Sean last night on the podcast. You look at the center position, you think, all right, no doubt, Embiid, Jokic, which of the two you're going to play? It's obviously going to be one of them. Jokic against Portland and Enes Kanter defense, and Embiid against Toronto. And then you look at Nikola Vucevic, and he's gone for 70 and 63 the last 2 games. He gets Detroit all over again. He gave you a triple-double against Golden State, 36, 16, and 10. He's given – I'm looking at this. He gave you 62 against Portland, 64 against Sacramento. Bad teams against centers, and Vucevic cleaning up, and you're getting a small discount on him. Is it being too cute playing Nikola Vucevic over Embiid and Jokic here, or does he deserve to be within the Nicholas?
I think he deserves the right now the Nikola crown. Right? I think we crown him the top Nikola of the slate, John. I'm not gonna lie. Tonight, I think for one night only. One night only. One night. I don't know if you ever heard that song.
I have no idea what you're singing, but yeah.
I think it's a Neo song. Shout out to Neo. Okay. Great artist. I think Vucevic is King Nikola tonight. To be honest, if I'm ranking Nicholas tonight, I don't know any other than Jokic and Vucevic, but Vucevic is 1 and Jokic is 2.
Okay. Would you play Nikola Vucevic over Joel Embiid?
Probably.
The man hung 94 on your Bulls.
I know. I know. Well, like there was also no Ben Simmons, and
Right.
Ben Simmons is playing pretty well. And obviously, look, this Embiid is the best version we've seen ever. Like this, he's incredible. He's been incredible all year. But the Magic don't have a Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris walking through that door. They have Evan Fournier and Michael Carter Williams. So like.
Penny
Yeah,
Hardaway
and
is not coming through. And
right. I mean, dude, it's Detroit. I mean, the foul happy Mason Plumlee, who has been better in the foul department, but he's not a world beater defensively. But honestly, like as good as the top tier is, John, I am all in on Jared Allen.
Yeah, like Jared Allen.
All in on Jared Allen.
Jared Allen, all 11 shots the other day.
He does everything. He blocks shots. He rebounds he's a vacuum on the glass.
Kyrie wanted DeAndre Jordan though, so
that I think that's that's great for us fantasy players because we can see Jared Allen and his glorious afro flourishing in Cleveland.
Right.
1.35 fantasy points per minute without Andre Drummond this year. Like and on a slate where we could play Giannis or Brooklyn, Sacramento, we just want to spend up on. It's going to be hard to get to the top tier center, and I think Jared Allen just fits so perfectly in all my builds and should be in all your guys' builds too.
Some center news that we're getting right now. Both Kevin Looney and James Wiseman active. Kevin Looney is starting tonight. Steph Curry is also active and will play against the Knicks. But that shifts Draymond now back to power forward. Looney and Wiseman are going to split center minutes. You could probably just scrap Eric Paschal if you even had any interest in him at all. And it probably impacts Oubre a little bit here.
Yep.
Slightly, not ton, but slightly as well, just having all of these guys active. Again, we weren't really looking at the Knicks-Warriors game too much anyways, but those guys are all back in the fray for them tonight. I'm still waiting on this Jeff Green news because to me, DeAndre Jordan, he had a revenge game on his mind for sure against the Clippers the other day, had 47 fantasy points. But against the Kings a couple of games prior, 27 minutes, 10 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 27 fantasy points. He's $5,500 tonight. If there's no Jeff Green, we could see him go up over 30 minutes again. I mean, he's seen 30-plus minutes a couple of times now these last few slates and playing upper 20s. So it's not like he's being the 20-minute man that he was, earlier in the year. So I think we're getting good value from a guy in a great spot, and there's some cheap exposure here to get on DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, and we should know that news before lock. It's 7:30 tip with lock at 7, so we should have that news. But yeah, I mean, he's the clear guy under Jared Allen. Because you're right. I mean, and it's more Sacramento, Brooklyn exposure at the end of the day. So I'm with you on DeAndre Jordan. And the 4 block thing that he had last game is not an outlier. Like he's a former defensive player of the year.
And I'm excited that it brings us back to our days of just like sweating out DeAndre Jordan rebounds.
20 just DeAndre, we need 25 tonight, man. Please just get us there.
Yeah.
I definitely a little nostalgia there, Johnny.
So glorious. Before we wrap this up, because we are over 6 o'clock here, and I got to get on Sirius XM in a little bit. Time Lord, are you in or are you out?
I'm in, I think. I mean, look at this freaking production the last two games. I hate that all 3 of these dudes are in the rotation now, like just all playing 20-plus minutes. Well, Tyson's playing like 100.
Tyson's playing 35.
Yeah, Tyson's playing 35. But like now Thompson and Williams are actually both like it's just a disaster.
They axed Grant Williams. He doesn't play anymore. They
should.
They're playing Tice as the power forward, and they're just rotating Williams and Thompson as the center for the most part here. Tristan Thompson also playing really well.
Yep.
But I'm a Time Lord stan. Love his block upside. He gave you 4 blocks in back-to-back games, 5 steals a few games ago against Denver. Good spot against Dallas, who they're without, no Porzingis. They don't have Maxi Kleba tonight. Like $3,900 over on DraftKings rather. Yeah. Is a good spend down. $5K on FanDuel though.
Yeah, it's we could find 500 for Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, Do you think it's safer? Would you rather pay $500 more for Jordan or $200 less for Tristan Thompson?
Fair. I'm proud of FanDuel for moving Tristan Thompson to center. Way to go, FanDuel.
Yeah, they did a good job there. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up here, James?
No, all the content's out. Go over to the website and make sure you check everything. Dot your I's and cross your T's before submitting those lineups.
Amen to that, because I forgot to save my lineup last night. Still worked out for the best, though. So thank God for late swap. You can still reorganize after things lock in there. But like James says, everything's out there. We'll be with you in chat up until roster lock tonight. Help you guys answer any questions, get any of the late breaking injury news that happens. And for now, I guess we will catch you guys tomorrow.